everyone, and thank you so much for joining in. Dr. Judy here, Dr. Judy WTF, What the Freud. And tonight we're going to be talking about power and control versus manipulation. So this is a call-in show, everybody, and please feel free to call in. And I'm going to be happy to answer questions. I just want to have questions that are relevant to the topic, please. And I'm going to keep the meetings relatively short so that other people can have a chance to jump in and ask questions as well. And so I've been thinking about this topic for an awfully long time. I know that I cover this topic in many of the episodes pertaining to control, manipulation, gaslighting, and all kinds of ways that people like to grab a hold of somebody and take them under their spell, under their the realm of control in order to manipulate and get what they want out of the relationship, which is real different than the paradigm of vulnerability. So basically the paradigm of manipulation and control is a paradigm based on the consciousness of powering over somebody else and taking the people as objects as opposed to relating to them and negotiating with them fairly and establishing a real relationship of vulnerability. So I'm going to be doing my usual mind mapping because that's how I think things break down most clearly and understandably. And if you're interested in receiving a copy of the mind map, you can go to drjudywtf.com, which will take you to psychologicalhealingcenter.com, and then you can download all kinds of stuff like the mind map and the peaceful healing dialogue. You can also purchase the mind map video series that I created a few years ago, and also the mind map video series for recovering from narcissistic abuse. And there are lots of goodies on my website, including tons and tons of blogs. So with that said, I'm going to pull out that mind map so that you can see the consciousness and see the level of the basis for manipulation and control. And so let's break down the mind map and then get specific. So the first three panels have to do with the past and how we have been encoded. And you will see there the wound, the reaction, and the encoding. So in the case of people who like to power over and control others, the wounding is to do with being objectified. So if a child is born into a family with parents who do not have empathy, who have an agenda behind having that child in the first place, or don't know how to create an environment of mirroring, attunement, encouragement, helping the child to grow and separate and individuate into a sense of self that belongs to that individual, what oftentimes happens is that the parents use the child as a pawn. And so that child grows up thinking that people are objects and you could just sort of manipulate them here and use them for this purpose and use them for that purpose. Why? Because of the childhood wound of controlling and smothering, and oftentimes combined with emotional neglect, specifically the kind of emotional neglect that goes with a lack of empathy, which is really a form of emotional neglect. So when the child is not shown empathy, the child does not develop empathy. So what I'm saying here is that control and manipulation are sort of like a plan B. If you can't have a real relationship with a person, then what's left? How about power, control, manipulation? That's about it. So we're going to talk more about a real relationship, which is metaphorically drawn in panel number 7. If you look at panel number 7, synergy represents coming together with another human being, exchanging ideas, exchanging emotions, exchanging vulnerability. And this does not happen in a narcissistic relationship because trust has been broken. So part of panel 1 wounding is that the trust of the child is broken, and therefore the child cannot trust that other people are in their best interest. And so therefore, if they're not in their best interest, then what are they good for? Well, lots of things. They can take from them money, they could take from them sex, they could take from them time, they can take from them ideas, they can take from them all kinds of good things. And that is referred to as the narcissistic supply. So they're empty on the inside because they haven't been given all of these psychological nutrients like the mirroring and the attunement and the empathy and the attention and the unconditional love. And so therefore they go for power and control. And this is a call-in show, everybody. So please do feel free to call in and let's discuss this. Let's discuss the aspects of power and control and how people who use power and control oftentimes will pair up with people who are overly vulnerable, people who are empaths, people who are codependents, people who are people pleasers. And these are the people that are often tested at first to see that they're going to go for it, go for being vulnerable, and then eventually overwork themselves and bleed out and be subject to being vampired. So I do want to hear from you. I work with a lot of people here at the Psychological Healing Center who have been drained by people who have manipulated through power and control. And this comes in many, many forms, and we're going to discuss the different kinds of forms. And of course, I'd rather hear from you because it's always more interesting to have a live case study, so to speak, so that we can mind map your situation and then break it down in terms of the wounds and the reactions and the encodings. So when we look at the reactions to the wounds of a person who's been wounded in this way, then basically what's happening here is that the person, instead of feeling open and trusting in the world, they start closing down and they start withdrawing their relationship with other human beings. And so this is where the wound turns into a reaction of shutting down and lack of trust, and then it encodes messages into the individual, such as messages like human beings are not to be related to, they're just to be used, or messages like you don't love me anyway, so therefore I'm better off just using you as a transactional object. So these are some of the encodings that land in panel 3 and then break down the system in terms of the real relationship, because a real relationship is not only power and control. A real relationship is based on vulnerability, because we cannot grow as individuals if we don't on some level have a vulnerable piece of us that shares our authenticity with another human being. In the case of narcissistic injury, there is no desire for authenticity. There's not even really a skill of authenticity, because that would be too vulnerable to somebody injured that way. And so what is narcissism? Narcissism is a system gone wrong, very wrong. And the narcissistic system is predicated on this apathy that I talk about, and that is what we treat here at the Psychological Healing Center. Is we're working with people who have been raised by apathetic parents, and so therefore don't learn to trust and don't learn to relate. And please do call in And I believe the number is on the board, so use it. And also, if you need some assistance and information, please push that link. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the show so that you can get weekly notification. So let's go into panel number 4, why chaos ensues when you don't have basic trust in the world. When you don't have basic trust in the world, what happens is that the pillars of mother and father and the whole family structure is missing. And rather than having a good structure and a good foundation to grow and support you, there is no good, strong foundation. So the foundation is, again, goes back to how can I use you? How can I gain something from you? How can I better myself as a result of you? Which is clearly distinct from synergy, which is more of the paradigm of, wow, this is going to be awesome. I love who I am with you. When I'm with you, I feel like you enhance me. And when the other person's with you, they feel that they're enhanced. And as a result of the relationship, there is more light to give and there's more light to share with the person involved in the relationship and other people in the world. So do you see the distinction between power and control and synergy, and why one paradigm would be the primary paradigm for an injured person, and how healthy people generally like to live in a paradigm of more vulnerability? So let's talk a little bit about healthy control and healthy power versus unhealthy control and power. Everybody loves to have some semblance of control and power. Who doesn't want that? Okay. And that's perfectly appropriate. At work, you need a boss who has power and control over the schedule, power and control over the goals of the company, power and control over the policies and procedures, and so on. And I think that this turns into good leadership. And parents have power and control over their children. And again, this turns into great leadership as parents. Now, if it's thwarted, meaning if there's not a sense of goodwill behind the power and control, if the power and control isn't there to organize the family, organize the corporation, then it's no longer power and control in the service of good structure. And that's where the chaos ensues. It ensues because people eventually realize that they're not being structured for their benefit. They're actually being structured to enhance the agenda of the other and not necessarily leave anything left over to the individuals involved in the particular structure, whether it be a family or a company, and so on and so forth.
We have a call.
I'm sorry?
We have a call.
We have a call in?
Yes, we have a call.
Okay, hi, you are here with Dr. Judy, so thank you for calling in. What is your name, please?
Hi, Dr. Judy. My name's Nick, and I was on your Global Chaos and Mind Map Solutions episode a few months ago.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, it's really nice to hear your voice. Were you the gentleman who let the cars go through and sort of offered up some humility and grace at a time where we were stressed and globally really under a lot of chaos? Was that you?
That sure was. I'm happy you remember. That's great.
I do. I thought that was awesome. You know, random acts of kindness is just what we need, especially now. So yeah, so tell me a little bit about how you relate to the topic.
Well, I saw your email today on the title of the show, and my relation to it is personal right now. It's just, I've always been kind of a hands-on kind of guy, a problem solver, fixer. my dad always taught me, if I don't want to hear you coming to me, bitching about a problem unless like you're offering me a way to fix it, And I've lately been kind of having to come to terms with getting hands off, being a little more vulnerable, maybe, if you will.
Okay.
And I figured I'd call you, and because I trust your advice so much, to see how you would suggest like trying to find that line.
Okay, so give me that example again. So your father says to you, "Don't come to me unless."
He's like, I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear you bitching about your problems unless you're offering me a way to help you fix them. Like,
okay, so okay, so that's a really interesting comment, because you're coming to your father, who you look up to or want to look up to, right? So he's kind of ignoring that piece of it, and he's making a demand on you to come to him with solutions, which is what exactly you need from him. Yeah? Is that about right?
Wow, that's interesting. That's pretty deep. Yeah.
Okay. And so he's basically positioning himself as somebody who's not vulnerable to having a relationship and discussing and brainstorming with you solutions. Does that kind of ring true to you?
Maybe to some extent, but he's actually a very, very solution-oriented guy. I think that's what he kind of means by it. He doesn't want to just sit around like bitching about it. He wants to like, let's find some action that we can resolve it. But
okay,
early on, he was hard to talk to.
I don't have a problem with let's resolve it. Let's get some solutions going around whatever the problem is. It's just that it seems a little bit disconnected, doesn't it? I don't want to hear from you unless you've got some solutions to offer up, rather than, hey, I'm really glad you're coming to get some advice from me. I'm here for you. Let's kick around some ideas. What do you think some solutions might be? Let's brainstorm together. Okay, so one is sort of like, don't come to talk to me unless you've got some solutions. And the other is more open-handed. Hey, I'm here. Thanks for checking in with me, and let's think out loud together. So let's go to panel 5 for a minute so I can mind map it a little more. And panel 5 is about defense mechanisms. Okay, so would you say that he's defended or open?
Well, I was already just going to say, you're already analyzing him in such a perfect way, and you don't even know him. His mother died when he was in like 2nd grade. Okay. And I'll never forget him. I asked him one time, I was like, well, what was like the hardest part about all that for you? And he said that he'll never forget the next day after the weekend when she passed, being in school, and during the morning announcements, they had him and I guess his other siblings stand up, and over the loudspeaker, they said, we want everybody to pray for Kevin. He lost his mother today or whatever. And he felt pitied or something at that moment. And I don't know. I just hit me as like, that was probably a very formative thing,
On the one hand, I get it. The teacher was trying to somehow acknowledge that something happened and people should know about it. On the other hand, it's a little much, to get the kid to stand up in front of the whole school and announce something so traumatic, so publicly. I wouldn't want it done to me, would you?
Absolutely not. And then especially to be prayed for, that's to be pitied almost, it would sound like,
Yes. And how old was he when his mother died?
2nd grade. So what would that make him? Maybe like 6 or 7 or something?
Yeah, 6 or 7. So look, I talk a lot about healthy dependency leading to healthy independence. And so when a 6 or 7-year-old has no mother to resource, then they have to go inward and resource themselves, you see? So I talk a lot about multi-generational injuries, and I'm seeing a connection here where he had to shut down and shore up and get his own solutions going because he didn't have his mother as a resource center, did he?
No, that makes total sense too.
Okay, so now he's playing it out on you. He's saying, look, don't come to me. Just do what I needed to do when I was a little boy. I had to think it through for myself. I had no mother to discuss it with. I don't know where father was, but I'm sure he was not in good shape after the death of your mother. So he was probably in a pretty grief-stricken state. Is that true?
Yes, and he ended up, just being overworked and whatnot. But from what I hear, because I didn't meet him, he took on the role just selflessly and very well. And also my father, I think you're hitting the nail on the head with him. But to speak to his character, he's grown a lot too. And he's the most supportive man I've ever had in that regard now. Like we work through everything like that and stuff. But he certainly, yes. Now we're like best friends, and I never would have believed it. I honestly probably wanted to kill him growing up.
Okay. Well, how did you get from that to connected to him? What was briefly the process of vulnerability, which is what it takes to get reconnected to people? So what was your pathway?
Long story.
Yeah, your pathway to vulnerability.
My pathway to vulnerability was about a decade's worth of terrible drug addiction that resulted in me kind of having no options or anything but my parents. And even them, they shouldn't have probably extended themselves to me at that point, just for their own self, preservation. But he and my mother did. They let me like clean up in their house and stuff. And I think watching me go through that long, arduous process of just trying to figure out which way is going to work for good or whatever. And now he sees me finally having come out of that. And he's grown a lot too. It's just life events have happened and whatnot, but we've both really grown and we both really care about each other. So we've worked towards making our relationship work.
Amazing. So somewhere in there was a person who did have the ability to connect to you. He did feel for you. He saw you struggle. And as a result of that, you guys got closer. Yes?
Absolutely. And just to be clear, I think when he said what he says, I think he's meaning like, I don't want you, me, or anybody else to be sitting around bitching about problems all day and just bitching to bitch. I want to bitch if we're going to come up with some ways to stop bitching about it eventually, but I don't want to just be sitting around bitching.
Got it. But it didn't really land very well on your ears because, again, it wasn't inviting. And he was putting up, although he was saying, okay, let's be solution oriented, good idea. But at the same time, he lacked vulnerability in the way he was saying that to you. And so then what did you do with it? Do you remember? Did you feel like brainstorming with him? Did you feel like sitting down and getting some solutions going? What happened in that moment between the two of you?
I probably resented him, if I'm being honest. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of aggression and anger towards my dad because he was an angry guy, or so I thought. But then again, at that age, I had no idea the pressures he had on him and the things he was keeping hidden from us so that we would not know that we were in the circumstances we were, so to speak. He was going through a lot, and I give him credit for handling it the way he, nobody's perfect, but like I said, now we have like a very great relationship. So it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty
how far it's come because we go ahead.
Pretty amazing. And I think that the human soul does want to connect with another and does want to leave room for the vulnerability. It's just that when we've been burned in our childhood, when we've been taught that people are objects, and when we've been treated as an object and controlled and manipulated, then that's what we learn people are about. It's the blueprint. It's back to the blueprint. So somewhere in there, the two of you grew, and the two of you found a way to interconnect. Now I'm on panel 7, so that you can understand that whatever you were going through and he was going through, you came to some sort of a human connection and understanding. And as a result of that vulnerability, the relationship grows, because without vulnerability, a relationship cannot grow. It's just sort of like two isms, your individualism and the other individualism, and then you guys are just like clashing or manipulating or controlling or dictating or something like that, but it doesn't really come together. So back to panel number 5 and 6, you see, if you're growing as a healthy individual and you're self-actualizing, remember Maslow's self-actualization? Remember the self-actualization model says that if your basic needs are met, and then you can grow to a higher level. And if that higher level if those higher level needs are met, then you can go to a higher level, and eventually you become separated and individuated, and then you can merge. In the case of the dynamics of control and manipulation, it's not really a well-developed person here. It's a person with a hole in the soul. And the person with the hole in the soul is trying to fill that hole because there's an emptiness, and filling the hole in the soul could also mean using people to feel better about themselves, using people to feel that they're better than, on top of the world, over them, and so on. And so what happens, therefore, usually what happens is people in the control manipulation paradigm will pick people who are codependents, people pleasers, empaths, because they're easy targets. They could just easily shadow over them and vampire them. And so instead of clashing with them, what happens is, instead of go to panel 7 for a second, I'll show you. For those of you listening, I'm referring to the vampiring effect versus the synergistic effect. So power and control leads to vampiring. So instead of all that light around the orbs, you see that one sucks the other dry and takes the light out of the system, okay? And it takes vulnerability on both parts to bring the light to the system. Nick, you still there?
Absolutely. I'm just happily listening.
Okay. So are you making sense of what I'm saying? I know I'm jumping around the mind map a little bit, but it really does illuminate these concepts, because you could see power, control, manipulation, no light, and just globs on to people who are easily manipulated and can fill the hole in the soul. And then the other one, the other model, the system gone right, are two people who have the sense of self, who have worked through their issues and don't have these deep wells of pain and need to fill with either drugs or sex or relationships or any form of addiction or any type of toxic bond, because they don't need to. They already have good enough psychological nutrients contained within. And now they're ready to merge healthily with another human being. And that's the opposite of power and control. Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
So somehow you and your father got there. What a lucky thing. A lot of people don't get there because they just keep clashing away at each other, or the weaker one gets engulfed by the other, and then the other person just sort of gets a feeling of aggrandization, and then the smaller fish eaten up loses power and starts dying inside, and and that's that system gone wrong. Okay, are you seeing it? Are you seeing it graphically? Are you understanding it in terms of your experiences in life?
Dr. Judy, I'm seeing it, and not only am I understanding it, I'm happy that I'm thankful that you're doing this with me right now, because I've read your mind map a few times since our last conversation, and I'm very familiar with it. I love your work.
Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you. And I couldn't agree more. And frankly, that's what's kind of inspired me to do my work lately, is the fact that I would come from what I consider to be very fortunate circumstances when I think of my parents and just everything in my life. And despite all that, I still almost fell victim to drug addiction, almost lost my life to that, almost very, very easily could have lost my relationship with my dad and my family and whatnot. But he's the strongest, smartest guy I've ever known. And also now he's the most compassionate, empathetic. Like, it just took me a while to see that. And he recently told me he doesn't like to compliment people or brag or build people up too much. But he recently told me that I'm the smartest guy he knows and the strongest guy he knows, which was really, it's just, I never thought, I'd see the day.
So most people who are very, very injured don't want to give credit to other people, because the formula sort of goes like this: I'm the best, there's nobody better, and it's all about me. I get all the credit, and if you're better than me, then somehow I'm less than. So we're back to that rotten system of power and control, not synergy. A synergistic system says that if you're good and I'm good, that's wonderful. And if we're good together and we create more good, that's amazing. Okay. And I don't know about you, but I want to live like my life that way. And I'm hoping that that we can all shift our paradigm out of selfishness, control, power, into a strong sense of self, a strong sense of boundaries, a strong and healthy sense of personal power, and power in our boundaries, control of our boundaries, and at the same time come from the consciousness of wanting better for the self, wanting better for other people, and understanding that just because somebody's smarter or richer or more beautiful or younger or more in shape or whatever it is, it doesn't take away from who you are. It just, there's plenty to go around. There's plenty to go around. Okay, so now we could broaden our lens, and I talk a lot about cracked lens of perception, and now instead of just being myopic and I'm going to do it this way because I don't feel well unless it's all under my power and control, if you're operating in that paradigm, I challenge you to give me a call, and I'll put you in touch with one of the team members, because there's not a lot of joy in that. The joy comes from connection, and that's why this process is about healing human disconnect, because once people are connected, there's so much more life and joy in that synergy. So thank you, Nick, for calling in. I really appreciate it, and for sharing more about your life. And I'm so happy that you and your father have come so far, and now you can both enjoy each other. Nobody has to be on top or under. It's synergistic. So
couldn't have said it any better myself.
Thanks. Okay, keep reading, keep studying. Everybody keep reading, because it looks easy, but this is not easy stuff. I made it easy with the mind map. I used to work for years and years and years with individuals, talk therapy, lots of analysis. I was always good at it, but never was I more clear than now, insofar as how all the dots connect. And that's why the mind map is so important. Anyone who has done traditional therapy knows how long it takes, how many sessions and months and years and sometimes people walk away from a session feeling better, but they don't know what the hell they learned. Okay, so
Yeah.
I wanna continue on that note. Okay, and thank you again, Nick. And I'll give some space for other people to call in. So good night to you, and I know I'll hear from you again.
You sure will. Thanks, doctor, for everything you do. Mindmap is great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And I really do appreciate people calling in, because although I can mind map and talk about facts and so on, it's always better for me to have somebody to talk to rather than to theorize and go into all of the definitions and so on. So I want you to know how much I appreciate it when you call in, and it also helps me to connect and be connected. And what that does to the brain is amazing. When you have another human being to connect to, then all of those neurons are at work, and there's an interconnected relationship, and there's more fertility in that, so to speak. Okay. And so that's why relationships are so important, and power and control in its most magnified narcissistic sense is not a relationship. Okay, if you look at the word relationship, you see two words there, at least I do. Relation, you're relating, you're not controlling, and a ship, it's sailing, it's moving, it's going somewhere. Okay. So I'll go on a little bit more about the mind map and the seed level of this power and control, because again, it's in the blueprint, it's multi-generational, and narcissism is formed in many ways. It could be because parents have an agenda for the child. Little Sammy, I want you to grow up and be just like me. Or little Mary, I never was a ballet dancer, but I always wanted to be a ballet dancer, and now I'm too old to do that, but you can do it for me. And there's just lots of ways that this power and control can show up in the earlier years, and then usurp the true sense of self of the person. And so it's almost like the actual authentic self is hijacked by the parents, and this hijacking is now used in service of their needs. Another example of that is forming that toxic tie whereby the child depends on the parent, and now the parent's need for the child overshadows their need to be a role model to the child, or to be the primary caregiver to that child, or more specifically, to put the child's needs first. And then there's a role reversal. So instead of the child being the child, now the child is a parentified adult taking care of the parent, maybe even acting as a little husband, or a little wife, or a little best friend, or a little therapist. Okay, so you can see that there's something wrong with this picture. If you've got a 6-year-old child wiping mommy's tears because daddy's coming home drunk every night, and mommy's using this child to be counseled and soothed, this is quite literally 180 degrees opposite of what should be happening. So that's what I mean by the system gone wrong. Okay, and what do when we are raised this way is we do the WTF, the what the Freud. And now we as adults become people who try to please, and people who try to fill roles for other people that they need us to fill, and therefore we then repeat the same patterns because of our grooming. And please do call in. This is a call-in show, and if you'd like some help, please press the link here and get all the goodies off of the website, the Be the Cause Healing Human Disconnect book. You can get a free PDF of this book and read away and connect the dots. You can also buy my mind map video series where I break down all the panels, one panel at a time, and you can purchase that and read it along with the book. And if you're suffering from recovering from a narcissistic relationship, or if you feel that you yourself have narcissistic tendencies and you're ready to look in the mirror and face that and heal, then please ask about the Mind Map video series for healing from narcissistic abuse. If you could put the book up there, I'd really appreciate it so that people can see it. The Be the Cause Healing Human Disconnect book. And also the pictures of the video and the narcissistic abuse video, if you have a chance to put it up there. If not, you can see it on my website. And so a lot of this mind mapping is aimed to connect the dots for people so that they can understand what happened, who done it, why they're reacting this way, why they're believing what they're believing about themselves and the world, and why they invite the people into their life that they invite in, and how it all breaks down into a bunch of chaos and chaotic relationships and financial issues and even health, the somatic issues, because of course we know that the mind and the body are intricately interconnected. And then at the end of the road, people tend to either implode, which means they get depressed, they hold all the anger and the sadness, and then they implode, they emotionally implode, and some people will explode and project all their unhappy feelings onto other people, and this is where they can project their anger and control and power over others and make others feel less than, and therefore have that one-upsmanship on the other. And of course, now we know, hopefully you know, that this is not the definition of a relationship. However, if you've grown up in a household where there is that consciousness of power and control, then that's normal for you. Okay, that's normal. If there are any calls, let me know, please. I don't always hear the bell, okay? And if you have a chance to put up the picture of the book, the Be the Cause book, I would appreciate it, and the video series. Kurt, if you're there. Okay, hopefully, Kurt, you're there. Okay, so
Yeah, it's up.
so let's, yeah, if you could put up the picture of the Be the Cause book and the video series, I'd really appreciate it so people can see it.
Yeah, it's up there.
Oh, okay, I'm just not seeing it. Thank you. Okay, my screen is different. All right, so let's take a look a little bit more about the power and control tricks, okay? Narcissists often find success in controlling others because they target codependence, which reinforces the codependent's shortcomings, but supposedly in the structure of the narcissistic psyche, it offers them, the narcissist, a sense of comfort. They will also begin a tactic of love bombing to make you feel powerful and special yourself. So imagine if you have a core sense of self that you're not important, not lovable, not special. Well, the person that's wanting something out of you may very well love bomb you and make you feel extremely special, extremely important, and you'll take the bait because this is like manna for a hungry person. You're just gobbling it up. It's absolutely nourishing in the moment. However, once you're toxically tied to the individual, they start withdrawing this love. So it goes something like this. First, they make sure that you're hungry for what they are going to offer you. Then they offer you that amazing sense of being special, and then you gobble that up, and now you've swallowed the pill, and now you're under their control and manipulation because you want some more, and over time you become a nice little addict for love and attention and feeling special. And then you bond to the person. Now you're toxically tied to the person. Not a very, very pretty dynamic, is it? And then they could start withdrawing this love, and pretty soon you're settling for crumbs. Sound familiar? And please call me. And if you have had any of these experiences, which I'm sure those listening have had these experiences, otherwise you wouldn't be listening to shows like Dr. Judy WTF. Okay, so here are some of the ways that this sounds. Although I only just met you, it's clear to me that you are exceptionally bright. You're a very special person. And so I only hang out with very special people. And so I'm special and you're very special. And so this is part of that love bombing thing. There's a new term I just learned today, and then I saw it in this article. I'm trying to give credit to the author. Let me see if I can do it. I think it may be Marnie White. No, that's not it. Okay, so I'll try to give credit to the author and find it. In any case, there's a period of grooming someone for a close relationship, and then the narcissist moves into the shock and awe and guilt tactic. The shock and awe come from over-the-top, emotionally charged tantrums that erupt when the friend or the spouse or the lover has just done something that disappoints. So there's that shock and, oh my God. Most normal people find such a dramatic reaction exhausting and strange, and they begin to work hard to avoid the repeat performance. But this shock and awe is designed to drain the person, confuse the person, and then after some of this shocking and business, the gaslighting. The gaslighting is a way to get you to question yourself. It's a control tactic. There was a great movie called Gaslight. I encourage you to see the original. I think the original was filmed in the 1940s. And the story goes something like husband and wife. And I think the wife knows something about the husband, and he doesn't want her to reveal this or discover. She could discover something really nasty about him. And so he proceeds to make her crazy, and he proceeds to gaslight her, and he turns the gaslight on and off and on and off, and then she asks him about it, and then he says something like, honey, I don't know what you're talking about. You must be nuts. Anyway, this movie is a great example of gaslighting because the woman begins to question her sanity. And of course, in the movie, this is a very advantageous control tactic for him, because if ever she comes out with evidence against him, he could just say, honey, you're insane. You belong in the loony bin. So this gaslighting will confuse people to the point where you begin to question your sanity. And being that most people who are more easily gaslit are very nice and very empathic, they'd rather say, no, he didn't mean it that way. No, I'm the crazy one. It must have been that I forgot this, or that I said it, and not the way I see it. So it's a way of cracking a person's lens of perception. And as a result, it weakens the person, confuses the person, and drains the person. So you can see that these tactics of control and manipulation are geared toward taking the other person down. A common way that I found people control and manipulate, and I know I've done several shows on this topic, is through passive aggressive behaviors, where again, you're questioning what's going on because you might be asking the person for something and then there's no reply, or they will do something like passively aggressively forget to do something that you ask them to do. And again, people who are empathic, people who are more codependent, people pleasing, will tend to excuse the person and say, yeah, I probably forgot to ask the person to do it, or again, I'm not sure. Was that my mind thinking straight? And you see, again, we're back to, this is not a relationship. This is not vulnerability. This is power and control with the agenda to bring the other person down and to gain something from that other human being. So please do call in. I would love to hear from you. And are you beginning to understand the system gone wrong? Study it carefully. Look at panels 1, 2, 3, which is the encoding of the past. And if it's not encoded well with psychological nutrients, as I like to call them, then you don't get a sustainable, healthy core sense of self. And when that core sense of self is not built well, then it is easily taken down into chaos. And then people try to defend and defend against the pain, defend against the low self-esteem. And the defenses often blow, they don't sustain themselves, and then we break down. So I think we have time for one more call. If not, then I'm going to just review a little bit so that you really get it. That power and control is the anti-vulnerability system. And if anybody does want to call in, please do that. I'm happy to mind map whatever is going on in your life. And please know that I have a beautiful, beautiful staff of people. And these people are all trained by me, PhDs, master's level life coaches, and they've all learned the mind map. And those of you who need more of a sliding scale type therapy, please reach out to the Psychological Healing Center and we will match you with the right therapist for your psychological needs as well as your budgetary considerations. And this mind map therapy takes place in 10 sessions. That's the psychoeducational healing journey. And it comes with a journal. And if you're doing the recovery from narcissistic abuse, it comes with a very special video called Healing from Narcissistic Abuse. And we pinpoint the consciousness of apathy behind the injury. And this is where this topic is particularly relevant, because if you've grown up with controlling, powerful parents who've had an agenda to put their needs before yours, that have an agenda to have you fulfill on their dreams and wishes in life, and don't support your dreams and your wishes, and don't attend your celebratory moments. I have many patients. I had somebody this week very painfully talking about how their accomplishments were never recognized. I mean, these pretty nice accomplishments, graduation ceremonies and awards and so on. And the parents didn't attend. And it's very, very painful. And this is not just a one-time event. This is a pattern where the consciousness behind it is a lack of acknowledgement and recognition. And that's a form of power and control too, because if a parent isn't recognizing the goodness and the hard work in the other person, they're not able to be vulnerable and show pride and joy. Because you see, again, if I'm proud of you, then it's not about me, right? And if you're successful and I have a hole in the soul, well, ouch, that hurts because maybe you're more successful than I am, and I don't like that. So it's just something that I want everybody to recognize, and that's why I'm talking about this. So that I can shine the truth light on this for you, and you don't walk around thinking that this is normal, or thinking that they didn't attend your special events because there's something wrong with you and you weren't good enough. Because see, that's how all of this lands into negative core beliefs. It's amazing what kinds of negative core beliefs people carry around with them. And the mind map system is geared toward dismantling the lies and the misperceptions people carry within themselves, these negative core beliefs that then weaken us and take us down and leave us vulnerable to people who can grab our low self-esteem and shove at our low self-esteem some crumbs and morsels of love bombing, and then we buy right into it. So please be very, very conscious of the tricks and manipulations, and understand what a true relationship is, and also keep growing, keep learning, keep listening, so that you don't become at the effect of life. And that's the point of being the cause. Being the cause simply means that you're conscious and you're no longer someone's sucker. You're no longer at the effect of it. And please remember, we are not the cause of part one of our lives, because part one was what our families and multi-generations did to us and created in us. And then part two is after therapy, we undo all of this lies, misperceptions, and then part two is really where you become the causal agent and create a better outcome for your life. So everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the call in and the listeners and everybody who is learning and growing and taking the naive wool off of your eyes. And that's what this journey is all about, is to make the unconscious conscious and to outgrow old systems and recognize all of the wounds that shadow over you, so that you can heal them and break free of them and paradigm shift out of them. So thank you so much for tuning in. Good night, everybody.